that you can see me here, and it looks like you should be able to see me, and hopefully also see my still life setup. So I wanted to talk a little bit about painting daffodils. Now, these are my favorite flowers to paint. I've painted them every year for, I've lost count of the number of years. I look forward to spring every single year just to paint daffodils. So I wanted to go over how to set up a floral still life setup, and what is a simple yet easy, not a rule, but kind of simple, easy compositional structure that will help you to make a successful painting. So that's one thing I want to cover. And then I also want to cover a little bit about painting daffodils, which are sometimes seen as really challenging flowers. So let's dive right in then. So the first thing is that I said I want to talk about is composition. And one of the best compositional structures for beginner still life painters is the triangle. So I want to show you how we have the triangle in this painting. So we've got a long line here, and then we have the longer line here, and of course this line here. So we've got this, if we think of it, this imaginary triangle. And this is a very nice structure to have, a very easy structure to set up and to paint. So one of the things with this particular bowl is it makes it difficult to get the daffodils to be kind of standing up higher than this, because they just end up leaning over and kind of leaning forward. But if we had a narrower vase, then that would make that easier to kind of get more of the height. So just kind of be aware of that there are limitations to every vase or structure that you put your flowers in, and just being aware of that and then working with it. So what I've chosen to do is to kind of group these three, and I'm going to paint these three more or less as one. Then we've got a little bit of a space, and we'll have another little bit of a space, the third one, this kind of third section. And then we've got this little one here on the ground. This one is barely opened up, and rather than its the head being more forward, the head was really down. So we've got this interesting curvature, which I thought was beautiful. So rather than having this stem kind of go back into the painting, we're going to have it coming out of the painting kind of almost towards us. So I'm looking forward to creating that optical illusion in this painting. Of course, I'm not going to paint this. So these are, I'm not sure what they're called. I think they're maybe called water picks. I think I found them on Amazon, to put these really delicate stems of the daffodils in there. I had to cut or make that opening wider. They're really stiff and ideal for roses, because roses have really sturdy woody stems, so they're great for that. But the more delicate stems that are with the daffodils, we kind of have to make it fit. So I try to make it that looser. So what I've ended up with are these tops that are some are tight and some are loose. So here is what they look like. If you see me looking off to the right, I'm making sure that I've got this in the viewer. Okay, so these are just little water picks, and you just put water in here, and then you stick the stem down in through here. Okay, put these back. I also use the water picks for setups when I don't want to put water in the vessel, because I really like to put flowers in non-traditional, interesting places. So I have some spittoons that look like that they were definitely used. I don't have any interest in cleaning them out. And I certainly don't want to put water in there and run the risk of it leaking. Gross. Or putting flowers in that gross water that's gonna, so it's just gross. So if I put flowers in a spittoon or something else that I don't want to put water in, I will use those little picks for that. So we've got a triangle composition, and I really do like this little blue. It's almost like a little bowl vase, and we can see the stems through it, and we've got, you know, darker stems and lighter stems, and it just makes it more interesting and fun to paint daffodils in this. I've painted it in several painted daffodils in this vase several times. I also love the blue and gold or blue and yellow color combination. That's a really solid one. And so if you can find a way to combine those two colors, that's always a very popular one. The other thing about florals is you want to make sure that your flowers are pointing in different directions. So you see this flower is pointing out here, and then this one is pointing downward, and this one's pointing even more downward. This one is pointing out almost directly to the viewer, but just a little bit outward. And this one is pointing downward. And this little buddy here on the tabletop is painting. You're looking directly at it if you are the viewer. So if you can get your flowers your flower heads to be going in different directions, makes for a more interesting painting. So don't have them all set up like little soldiers and pointing in the same direction. That will be a boring painting for both you, the artist, and your future viewers. What other tips do I have for this? With this setup here, you could paint it either a chiaroscuro, or you could paint it a light background. You could even paint it a medium or middle tone background. If you went with the chiaroscuro, you're going to want to focus on the light. If you went with a middle ground or middle tone background, what you're going to want to focus on is the color, both the blues and the yellows. And if you went with the light toned background, you're going to want to make sure you focus on and find as many dark accents as possible. And that what may be a challenge is trying to get these lighter parts here to be lighter than your background. So I think maybe the best setup for this painting to put the daffodils in their best light would be a middle tone background. So you could focus on the color of the blue vase as well as the yellow trumpets. Okay, so now let's talk about daffodils. Daffodils are in the Narcissus family. Paper whites are also a part of this family, and there are many varieties of daffodils. They're also called jonquils. Jonquils daffodils, same different name, same flower. These are some that are growing in my yard at now. These are actually the first flowers that are blooming. I have a couple of other varieties that should be blooming very shortly. And every fall, I try to add to the collection of daffodils. So daffodils have a trumpet, and their trumpet is very similar to the shape of this cone. So imagine that you have the trumpet of the flower here, and then we have the petals coming out around the trumpet. Now the trumpet doesn't narrow quite as much as this cone does. It's probably cutting off right about here. but we definitely have this cone-like shape. See, we can see that here. We have a cone-like shape there. And that cone-like shape is going to be present whether we can really see that or not. So just kind of be aware that sometimes we're going to be looking inside of it and looking inside the cone shape. So here we're looking inside. If this were hollowed out, we would be looking inside the cone shape. So in the very center here, it's getting darker, partly because the color is a little bit darker, but also because there is less light getting in there, there's more shadow. So looking at these cones, that's going to help us to know how to go and paint them. And so thinking about what their dimensional shape is. So if you're looking at the still life in person, it's so much easier to see this 3D shape. But when you're looking at a photo, it's harder to go and see that. So if you are painting this from a photo, I want you to be thinking about a cone shape and this three-dimensional shape being present in each of these flowers. And if it's possible, go and pick your own daffodils and go and paint them. The way to go and paint them is going to be very, very similar. All right, if you have any questions, please do pop them down in the comments. And if you want me to show you how to paint something else, of a spring flower or other objects, please do put your comments and requests in the comment section. So I would love to be able to show you how to paint things that you want to learn how to paint.